point of every Commander game is to win, right? Of course, any game of Commander can win in a certain way, but how you do that through combat or combo, or how many win conditions you include, are very complicated questions to ask for deck building. Nowadays, with the amount of cards in the Commander card pool, it can actually be pretty hard to reduce the amount of cards you want down to 99. Before, you had to struggle to get to that number, but nowadays there's so many good value engines for any of the top commanders, it can be hard to find the right way to win, if there is such a thing. And in today's video, we're looking at one by Deck Driver MTG, going over said win conditions, how many you should include, how that might differ based on your commander and its efficiency, and maybe even the color itself. Let's hop right into the most important part of any commander game. It's been a while since I've watched a Deck Driver video, so we're gonna leave a like here, but oh look, is Deck Driver alive? Oh, my man hasn't posted in a while, I guess. All right. Really, as I mentioned in the intro, this is very important to me as someone who's been making a lot of edits and finally finishing that Wise Mothman deck. Adding win conditions is important. You can go overboard and maybe go combo centric, or you can hyper focus in on 1 to 2 and follow the more optimized route that a lot of content on Commander these days kind of funnels you into, or you could just win the good old fashioned way, build a board and Hail Mary. Let's see what Deck Driver's got to say.
Typically, when I think about win cons, I'm usually thinking about an overrun, some sort of combo, some sort of big mana spell, or any 3 combinations of the sorts.
Yes.
Typically, a win con is usually like 1 to 2 cards at most, or has some sort of way of using multiple cards if it is like a 4 or 5 card win condition. Now, we might have to get into the ethics of a 4 to 5 card win condition that might be considered a war crime, but for the most part, usually it's going to be around 1, 2, maybe 3 cards, that 3rd card being your commander at most. Now, the biggest thing that I like to do in my deck building is figure out what kind of win con suits the deck that I'm currently building. Is it going to be a combo finish and I'm just racing to get to that combo? Is it going to be a combat damage win condition? Is it going to be some sort of alternate win condition? Is it going to be non-combat damage? Is it going to be a big spell? What way and in which method am I going to win this game of Commander? Or at least, what does my deck want to do? As an example, I have my Rocco Street Chef deck, and the biggest struggle I've had with making that deck is figuring out what's an actually good win con to use. Pretty much the only win con that I can find that's actually decent to use in Rocco is something like an Overwhelming Stampede. There's no other type of burn.
Well, so for Rocco specifically, sure. One thing I think is a good marker to start understanding what a good win condition is for a deck is ask yourself why you decided to build this commander that you are making a win condition for. So, for example, the Wise Mothman for myself, I like the fact that that deck had multiple angles and additional colors. So for example, Mill is traditionally Dimir. I like the fact that you had access to green, arguably the most powerful color in Commander outside of blue. And when it came to having multiple angles, you had the +1/+1, so you could build it as a go wide. You could build it as a damage-based mill commander, where you didn't necessarily care about milling your opponent. It was about doing damage to them, or you could just, again, build it as mill. And if your opponent had like shuffle effects or someone to stop you, maybe you had like multiple ways to exile their graveyard. So there were multiple ways to approach this, and it allowed me to deck build the way I wanted to. Also, there was the unique fact that you were dealing with like a new permanent type. So there were, rad counters, adding counters on that. You could play with proliferate shenanigans. So having something like Rad Storm was also interesting to me as like a brand new effect that had Storm and could proliferate. So you had the combo angles as well. Now, when it came to building it ultimately, right now, if you follow me on my Mox field, link down below, I have 2 versions of my Wise Mothman. And that's how I've managed to explore it, where in my bracket 3 version, I've gone more in the mill route because that's the exploration that I wanted. I wanted to have finally just a mill deck that I could be happy with. And then in my bracket 4 version, it's combo soup. It has a bunch of combos. It's Sultai combo. There are mill infinite combos. There are Thassa's Oracle win conditions, Jace Wielder mysteries, alongside Thought Lash and Tainted Pact and all that stuff. So I wanted the ability to play the green ramp package in both of them and just do more things per turn and just do the traditional good commander thing while also suiting it to my needs. So again, analyzing what I wanted out of that commander and not traditionally just picking like, okay, it's just going to be mill, it's just going to be that, it's just going to be that. I chose, okay, these are how I want to win. How do I get there now? Am I going to be playing a lot of tutors? Am I going to be playing a lot of draw spells? How am I going to be making sure I get there? So I'm choosing the green ramp package to be able to get out a bunch of lands, multi-spell in the mid game, and just outvalue my opponents from there. And I didn't choose to go the +1/+1 counter route. I didn't choose to necessarily go like the storm route or something like that, the proliferation route. So it's all about choosing that commander and understanding why, instead of just being like, oh, this is green, I'm going to pick overrun. Oh, this is blue, I might pick like control win conditions. Oh, this is black, I'm just going to pick some, maybe generate a bunch of mana, cast a giant X spell, and like win from there.
Damage, I've gotten rid of any sort of artifact burn or creature enter burn. So the win cons are kind of limited for something like that, but that is okay, because in the context of that deck, it's meant to be a more casual setting and a more casual experience. Now, when we change things over to my braids or belly,
I should like, you know, while we're like doing this, I will at least like, let's just show off Rocco's Street Chef, okay? Just so for those of you not understanding it, red, green, and white for a 2/4 legendary elf druid. At the beginning of your end step, each player exiles the top card of their library until your next end step. Each player may play that card. They exile this way. So there's a short group hug element. You're passing your turn. Everyone exiles the top card of their library, and then everyone gets to cast that card. It's not like without, you know, paying the mana cost for it. And then we'll see the stipulation in a second here. And then until your next end step, so you still get to cast that card, but you're going to be technically the last one unless you're playing with a bunch of instants. Whenever a player plays a land from exile or casts a spell from exile, you may put a 1/1 counter on target creature and create a food token. So again, this is why we're thinking the go wide strategy. We are building up a board, and as opponents are getting their value from their cards, you are buffing up your board. You're creating a critical mass of artifacts, and you could go the route, as you know, not dealing with what we're talking about in the video, but you can go the route of artifact matters, you know, sacking artifacts. Again, that's not what Deck Driver wanted to do, but there are multiple ways that you can approach something like this to get a lot of value from it. Now, back to the video, let's talk about
these. Try to win through a combo win. These are my bracket 4+ decks. These are the decks that are looking to resolve some sort of combo win condition. Essentially, when you're playing combo, you just try to find the best window of opportunity. Sometimes, though, combo decks can have a win condition like Underworld Breach and something like Brain Freeze combos, and the entire goal of those decks are to turbo it out as fast as possible. I find it really weird to have a combo finish in your bracket 2 list. If you're playing a bracket 2
I don't even think that's really a bracket 2 list. Like if you win with a combo of bracket 2, the nature of combo just feels inherently high bracket. It feels like, you know, the people have that discrepancy between, you know, what's bracket 4 and bracket 5. You know, like with my Wise Mothman deck, I'm playing all these like Thassa's Oracle Winds, I'm playing Force of Will, I'm playing Force of Negation, I'm playing all these fast mana cards, or not fast mana, I'm playing all these cheap efficient interactions. The key is the intention of how I'm going to win and the hyper efficiency to what I'm considering against. So I'm not building this deck against a meta game, it's against a wide audience. Hence why I'm playing the general value package of Green Ram to be able to multi-spell and give me as many options as possible. Next up, I'm not also including any fast mana. I'm not necessarily trying to win as fast as possible, because in a multiplayer game where you can draw the ire of the whole table, I don't want to be doing too much too early, but I want to generally keep on pace with the table while keeping like kind of low key with something that is generally untouchable, aka your land base. So again, it's all about intentionality as to what you're doing, keeping things from bracket 4 to 5. And in my opinion, when it comes to bracket 2, if you're going that combo route, like if it's like a 2-card combo or a 3-card combo, you're definitely not bracket 2. Even if it's like 4 to 5, like it's still very loose. Like it's, you know, bracket 2 to me, it's like you can't even intentionally build to bracket 2. That's the way I think of it. This is my headcanon, where it almost just has to exclusively be a precon by definition. I don't think you can intentionally build bracket 2. If you're intentionally building bracket 2, I feel like it's almost just slotted into 1. Like you're just purposely building low power. It's bracket 1. Bracket 2 is exclusively like, it's not even like supposed to be sequential. It's almost parallel to 1 in my headcanon. Maybe that's me misunderstanding it, but yeah.
That usually just tries to win through combat damage, and then out of nowhere you have a 2-card or 3-card combo. it doesn't really make sense, one, thematically, and also it leads to bad play experiences within your group. You're not really winning in the style that the deck wants to win, which is why, for me personally, combos only go in my more bracket heavy lists that are at the top, that are worth quite a bit of money, as well as tons.
But also, I feel like part of this is the idea that you shouldn't be teaching people through Commander, right? Commander is probably the single worst format that you can teach someone to enjoy Magic in the long term. I think for a quick hit, it's multiplayer, you sit down, sure, you can just jam some funky little cards, but especially if you bring them into an LGS scenario where they're going to be coming up against a wide group of decks, a lot of lingo and ingrained terminology and play pattern behavior that is, that comes with playing Commander and watching Commander content or just being ingrained in the format. It's not intuitive at all. Again, Commander is the worst format to teach anyone. I personally highly recommend either a Great Cube pre-release, or if you wanted a 1v1 constructed format that's up in the competitive sphere, you're looking at Pauper. Those are what I would consider very good learning vessels to be able to introduce people to mechanics over time. And so with that discussion in mind, combos aren't necessarily a good way to teach people at those lower levels. It's not fun for a new player to just lose out of nowhere. Like, oh, I resolved this card. Okay, what does that mean? Oh, you have infinite mana? Oh, okay, that's cool. What are you gonna? Oh, you're gonna cast a giant X spell and you win out of nowhere and I can't do it. Oh, this is a sorcery. I can't do anything. Oh, nothing I did mattered. Wow. Okay, yeah, that's cool, right? And so you're then taught these things where it feels like your efforts are in vain, where in fact your efforts aren't necessarily in vain, but combos teach you a concept where maybe you should have played to your plan but slightly differently and held mana open. But that's a hard concept to like learn over time without being directly told that, and people don't want to be directly told that. So all in all, I think people they are best served to learn and best feel good about their game at lower levels, bracket 1 and bracket 2, where you might have a pre-con come out in a place where they see everything on board. You don't just come out of nowhere. You point at things and you say, hey, I'm playing this card that untaps things. I'm playing this card that makes a bunch of 1/1 counters. And then even if you went out of nowhere, it's because you said, hey, I said this card makes a bunch of 1/1 counters out of nowhere. Now my board is massive. That's your fault. And you're like, you know what? That's fair. Maybe I can block here. I can block here. Oh my God, I'm actually at 1 life, but oh wait, I might lose anyway. So these are the type of things where once they see things on board, it's easier to understand. So this is the difference between win conditions and how to curate them for lower levels, but win conditions still are important.
Of time and tuning into those lists. Now let's talk about big spells as well. Big spells could be something like an Insurrection.
One of my favorite
Insurrection is one of the coolest, in my opinion, win cons that you could possibly have. These sorts of combos usually are 1-card win conditions, but they usually provide so much advantage to your deck as well as your game that they usually do end up winning the game, even if it's not on the spot. A card like Exsanguinate gives you so much more life than your opponents that in most cases they're probably low enough where if they're at 20, you're probably killing them. A Torment of Hailfire is the same thing. If you play Torment of Hailfire for 20, let's say, you should win the game on the spot. A lot of these big mana spells are usually X spells, but sometimes something like a Seagate Restoration is going to give you so many cards that you just win. Or an Omniscience. It's not an X spell, but I get to now play every single spell in my deck from my hand for absolutely free. Amanatu's Augury is also one that I slept on for quite a while. Honestly, I just didn't read the full card. So far we've talked about...
One thing I'll say is, when it comes to cards like Omniscience, playing it a lot in Timeless, you're playing like Belcher, whereas in Timeless you're playing show and tell, right? So you're show and telling either a One Ring, or you're show and telling ideally an Omniscience, then into maybe like a One Ring or a Belcher or whatever it is. And so in a deck like that, one thing I learned that's very important is when an opponent shows you a extreme value engine, right? So they show you an Atraxa, they reanimate a Gristlebrand, they show and tell in an Omniscience. have them show you the win condition. Right? A lot of people concede way too early. They don't. And you know what? Some of this is fair. Maybe the night's gone on a little too long. You don't want to do the math. You don't want to deal with all that. And that's fair. But in a game where it's earlier on in the session, you have a little bit more kind of mental fortitude to you. Take the time and like force them to have the win condition and do the math. You might actually be alive at 1 life or 2 life, and winning the game at 1 is the same as winning the game at 40. So Omniscience is one of those examples. You can get out on Omniscience, but your opponent only got 2 cards in hand. If those cards aren't like draw 4 cards and it's just a negate, you're not winning that game, right? Like unless your commander has something to it. Like, I don't know, I don't care about your Omniscience. You're not winning that game. Play that Omniscience. Sure. What are you doing with that card? I will try and stop everything else. Now, if they're casting Omniscience with like no maximum hand size and 10 cards, you should probably take the L there. Chances are it's not in your favor. You probably still make them force you to play it out and see if the table can come together. But that's another thing about win conditions. Cards that literally don't say I win the game, let them play it out, do the math, and make them have it.
About the good old overrun effects that are very classic in Commander. We've talked about the combos that are in Commander that usually should be for higher brackets, but could maybe make a case in the lower brackets. And we've talked about the big mana spells. Now let's go into the context of when, why, and how I like to play these win cons. We kind of already have gone into it for the combo list, but you could put a combo in a bracket 2 list. The only reason that usually it's not as good is because when you look at the context of bracket 2, it is a lot of I win through combat damage and just kind of outlasting the other opponents. And it is a lot of our usual fun, fair magic that we kind of seek out to play. This is a big reason why combos don't usually pan out too well over there. But there are many ways that you can play a bracket 2 viable combo. Honestly, I don't have very many guidelines for what that would actually look like, but try to keep it to 3 to 4 cards. The next thing is big mana combos. I would suggest using big mana combos in a deck that you know is going to go into the late game or into a meta that you know goes pretty late. At my LGS, when I'm not playing with my normal friend group that usually plays at a high bracket 3 to bracket 4 level, I like to have a deck that just wins through a big mana combo or big mana spell, because if I'm not playing with that friend group, I'm usually playing with a bracket 2 to maybe bracket 3 table, in which case the game's going to be an hour and a half to 2 hours long. Now, if that's the case, I make sure that I have plenty of mana sources. I have plenty.
Hold on. I feel like we shouldn't be playing hour and a half to 2 hour Commander games. I feel like this is just bad deck building at this point. We have enough cards in this game, and I've kind of alluded to this before, how like hyper optimization has like changed this game in many ways, but I feel like we shouldn't be having games that long, and we should have a discussion about people not swinging in, not trying to, be aggressive anyway, not change any, draw any ire of the table. We talked about it before. Just swing. Just change the damage, doing 2 damage here, 3 damage here. All of that adds up over time. All of a sudden, someone's at 25 life, 21 life, and that giant exsanguinate actually does matter. Whereas if they were still at 40 because no one's swinging, it doesn't matter. Also, rolling dice to choose. Just pick them. We're all people here. We can all take a hit, and if you can't take a hit, get up and go away. Get up and you're not welcome here. If you're gonna get mad because I swung at you in turn 1, right? Just because everyone's pickable and I just, I'm just going to choose you. It's random. If you're getting mad at that and there actually is no reason to it, you have a deeper problem. It's not about the game anymore. You got deep problems and you need to go fix them outside this game. All right.
Plenty of ways of drawing through a lot of my decks so I can find that, or tutoring out it so I can find it. Then I find a good time to just rip the spell, and it usually results in a win. And then the last thing, of course, is the overrun effects. Now, overrun effects are pretty good. You should probably only use it when you're playing a green deck, but you could play it at essentially every single level. Now, as you get into the higher brackets, the best way to play these overrun style decks is with a big mana spell like Finale of Devastation, getting a Crater Hoof Behemoth, and winning the game that way. It is no real different than an actual combo list. If you have a green pip commander and you just cast a natural order, sacrificing that to get a Crater Hoof Behemoth, you're probably going to win. And if that's the case, what's really the difference between a 2-card combo and just winning through combat damage with one spell?
Yeah, I think a couple of commander creators have talked about this, and it's important that it comes from multiple angles. So I'm not trying to say deck driver stealing ideas or anything, but it's important that this comes from multiple angles because a lot of people don't realize this. There is no difference. There is no difference. You tutoring for Crater Hoof Behemoth is the same thing as it's the same thing. You just comboed off. It's just the same ugly, dirty pig with some makeup on it. That's it. Sometimes it's makeup. Sometimes it's a costume. Sometimes you actually manage to cast an illusion spell on all of us, right? But it's the same damn thing. Crater Hoof Behemoth comes down, gives everything a massive boost, and you just tutored for it. That's all it was. I'm doing that with it's the same thing as Thassa's Oracle. Natural order, Crater Hoof Behemoth is the same thing as Thassa's Oracle Tainted Pact. It's interactable in arguably the same amount of ways. If anything, the Thassa's Oracle combo probably has more hoops to it as well. Like there's probably more hoops to that as well, all things considered. But I think a lot of people forget the fact that these big combat wins that like make infinite extra combats or something like that, like a combo doesn't need to be a combo to go infinite. You could make 3 extra combats and that's still a combo. It's still a win condition, right? Like it doesn't need to go infinite. It could just be a combo that provides really good value or synergy, and that allows you to win the game or overwhelm maybe 1 to 2 people, and the last person that's around to face against you doesn't have the resource to kind of beat you. They're the one that's always been behind, so you strategically took out the more powerful 2. That is functionally winning, although they can still come back. You can still do things like that. These are still game-winning situations. These are still combos.
In my opinion, there really isn't a difference. One is just that you have one extra step, which is moving to combat. And now that I think about it, basically every win condition is just some sort of combo. If it's a big mana spell, the combo is a lot of mana. If it's an overrun, the combo is the overrun spell.
Yeah.
And if it's a combo, well, the combo is the...
If you think about it, like all an overrun effect is amassing specific cards on the board. Overrun essentially says, hey, creatures get +10/+10. If I cast this spell while having 5 other creatures, I win the game. That's it. That's all overrun effects say. And the overrun effect win condition is like an alchemy card. The alchemy effect of it says that I just need more creatures depending on the state of the game. The later the game goes on, I just need more creatures and I win the game. That's all it really says. These are all win conditions. They are all 2-card quote unquote combos, or they're combos of different variety, right? Like you have cards out there, like think of Hedron Alignment. I think it's Hedron Alignment, the blue and 2 enchantment that says if you have a Hedron Alignment in exile, in hand, in graveyard, or something like that, like 1 in each section, you can't play this in Commander. You win the game. You win the game. It's like functionally the same thing as that. If you were to mass a certain board state, then resolve a spell, you win the game. That's all overrun says. There's just the extra step of going to combat.
Combo that combos. It makes sense if you think about it. Yeah. Basically, all I'm saying is you gotta have a couple cards that help you win the game. So let's talk about how many of these win cons that you should be running in your deck. Typically, it really just depends on how much advantage you have in this list.
Probably like
if you're playing something like an Adeline mono white aggro list, really anything that is above 4 to 5 mana should be helping you win the game. There's not a lot of card draw in white, in which case pretty much 10 to 12 cards above 5 mana should be in your deck that are going to win you the game, like a Cathar's Crusade, an Elsbeth, some sort of Anointed Procession effect, a Dollmaker's Shop, any card like this that's just going to amplify what those 1/1 tokens are able to do. But if you're in something like black, having a single win condition or 2 win conditions is going to be perfectly fine because you can just have so many 2.
But look, I'm gonna cut this off. Deck driver, I disagree. 3 to 4, right? You got to think about, what that win condition is based on your table. Do you have a table where, you can't play any ETBs based on the board? You need another win condition that doesn't require that. You have a blue heavy player. You have to try and politic your way around them, like casting out multiple spells. And then you need a win condition that is potentially a creature that you can sneak out on their Cavern of Souls, or a Boseiju who shelters. Is it who shelters all, or the Boseiju where you pay 2 life, it comes in tapped, and if you use an instant or sorcery to counter it, to cast it, then it's uncounterable. Like if you want to sneak in and it's sanguinate with something like that, right? So have multiple win conditions that are slightly different, right? So overrun effects, maybe an overrun effect where you can sink infinite mana into, and it's an activated ability of a creature. That way it's not like an ETB or something being cast. You can have it out on the battlefield, or you might be able to reanimate it. Have one that obviously just gets on the stack, have one that's an artifact, that's an enchantment, or something like that. Create variety. Maybe you have a deck and you have a theme. You want to overrun. You want to win through combat. Have different ways or different types of spells that do that effect, so that you can have different ways to win based on your situation. And then you would obviously build your commander around, or your deck, your 99, around multiple draw effects, filter effects. This is going to be easier depending on the color you're in. You have impulse draw, which is in red. In white, it's a little bit more like catch up ramp, but it's a little bit, you do have ways to get value in white. It's just card draw is a little bit harder to come by. Black, you have tutors. Blue, you have more traditional card draw, things like that. Green, you have freaking everything. Honestly, to be honest, you have everything. So have maybe 1 to 2 types of win conditions and have a variety amongst them. Branch them out is what I would say. 1 to 2, I would not do that.
At your disposal. Now, if you're in red, it's probably the same exact case as white. You should have a lot of ways to close out the game, whether it's through non-combat damage or a bunch of big red spells. Again, red is quite explosive and it needs to be quick as possible, unless you're able to supplement it with other colors that are able to slow down the game at a better rate. Green is also just as explosive as red, maybe a little bit less, but it's also way better at drawing cards than red, so you don't need to have nearly as many win cons in that list. Let's talk about Belby again as an example. Belby has plenty of ways to tutor out its single win condition, which is its Protein Hulk combo. The Protein Hulk, or Tooth and Nail, or any sort of sack outlet to kill the protein.
Now, see, when you're talking about, okay, so, he mentioned earlier that Belby is a bracket 4 deck. This is when you get into the modes of like hyper efficiency, right? So if you're talking 1, 2, 3 brackets, this is not really that relevant of a discussion, because in bracket 4, everyone is doing something similar. You're approaching the concept of what a metagame could be. People are generally playing higher power spells. You likely have to play around the fact that your blue player has a mana drain versus a counter spell, or they have a Flusterstorm or a Force of Will. They likely have stuff like that. Like, there are certain things that you start to expect out of your opponents. And so 1 win condition makes sense if you have ways to maybe get parts of that win condition out of exile or out of the graveyard, or just out of the way of certain parts of interaction that your opponent might have for you, and so you build around that specific one.
Hulk is the way you're going to win the game. And since we're in green and black, we have some of the best card advantage at our disposal, despite the fact that there's no blue in the list. We have so many tutors, so many ways to draw a ton of cards all at once. Because of this, we usually do not struggle with...
I mean, tutors aren't really card advantage. Tutors are like essentially more expensive versions of the cards you already have, but you're having to cast 2 cards for the price of, for like the effect of 1. Right. So I don't know if it's necessarily card advantage, and you do have ways to draw cards, right? Black does, notably. Even green, if you have creatures on board. So it really depends on how you built out your green package. But
finding our win condition at a reasonable pace. And the same goes for my Braids list. We have so much card draw in the command zone, as well as a lot of tutors. It's a pretty consistent list. Now, as we head down the brackets, when I'm in blue and red, I try to take as much advantage from the blue side as possible. And Mana Geyser is our single win condition, or a Jeska's Will.
Yo, this card is so crazy. Like, I'm seriously considering, like, I just played against it yesterday, someone playing VV, and like, yo, you just cast this on turn 5, like on curve, it actually puts in work, especially in bracket 3, where people are building out like more when people are building out more like pillow fort style, like engine based strategies, they're tapping out more. Mana Geyser is actually insane. So I've really I've come around on this card a little bit. As for bracket 3, bracket 4 maybe like a little bit less, so depending on how you build things, but bracket 3 100%. I'm so strong on Mana Geyser. I just don't know how I would take advantage of it in like Ragavan specifically based on how I built it. But Mana Geyser, I mean, it's a good way to go from 5 to 10. Like really quickly
is also another way. And casting a single Mana Geyser into a Wheel of Fortune effect is usually enough to close out a game in a color combo like Izzet. Essentially, it's like this. The more card advantage that your color combo has, the less amount of win cons that you need to put into your deck.
Yes and no, yes and no, yes and no. So again, it's about the variety based on the type of interactions your opponent has for you. And generally speaking, your opponent is going to have ways to protect themselves as well as interact with you in the mid brackets. So you're thinking 3 and like a low 4. And so you have to be ready for stuff like that. People are going to have the removal spell, the Path to Exiles, the negates, and like a way to, you know, like just yesterday I was playing against a player that was playing in Enchantress deck. They played a 5-mana enchantment. It was, I forget the name of it, but it was like whenever an enchantment entered, you get a Flicker Wisp effect on a non-enchantment card. So they could then use their commander, which you pay black, 1, and white into, to create like an enchantment token. And that would trigger that card and they could instantly interact with something else. So people are going to create value engines like this. So I don't think you should just have one to do based on your card advantage, because that is under the assumption that you are going to have protection for that win condition. Otherwise, the card advantage doesn't matter. You could, yes, I super easily draw into my win condition, but does that mean it's going to resolve? Does that mean it's going to actually pan out? I have the, you know, kind of effect, but someone could have an Aetherize or something like that against my overrun effect. Like these are all things you have to consider. So having 1 to 2 win conditions is, I don't think is correct at all, unless you're bracket 4, specifically bracket 5 as well. If you're like low 4, probably 3, like the majority of players out there at 3 and 2, you should have more regardless of the amount of advantage that you have. All the advantage does is make sure that you have the ability to draw into multiple win conditions based on the situation at hand, while also finding the interaction you need to protect said win condition.
It's a pretty simple concept, really. And that is all about win conditions in Commander. Whether you're just a dude that likes to just hit your opponents into the face until they no longer exist, or you're the type of guy that wants to just combo off through infinitely tapping your wizard commander. Either way, win conditions are important if you ever want to actually win a commander game. You'll probably need at least one. So I hope this video has been helpful to you guys. And if it has, please feel free to like and subscribe. As always, if you are looking for any links, they are in.
All right. So I think in general, my closing statement, my comment to add to this, I would slightly disagree and say, especially for bracket 3 or low B4, you should have multiple win conditions. But regardless, I loved the video, and we gotta get a pod going with your Belby deck. Am I like, where is it? I feel like I'm mispronouncing this damn thing. Where is it? No, I saw the Crater Hoof right here.
Maybe a little bit less near this plenty. The protein hole tutor out. Let's talk about Belby again as an.
Yeah, Belby Corrupted Observer. Okay, so whoever wants to see the pod going with Deck Driver, I would love it if y'all kind of shot him a DM and message him. But regardless, overall, I think the message of the video makes sense. It's like kind of a summary and just going over. I think we're missing some of the nuances of like bracket 3 versus bracket 4, efficiency versus consistency, or redundancy is the word I'm looking for. So efficiency versus redundancy. You can have both, but generally there is a divide between brackets and how people build out their decks. But overall, play multiple win conditions. You should have a win condition, and you should have a clear win condition. You should be working towards at every point in the game some of your win conditions, if not all of them at the same time. But for now, if you want to see more videos like this, leave a like down below. Of course, if you want to give this video, Deck Drivers video, and I highly recommend you do, it's Time in the Limelight. Play it in the background, leave a like, leave a comment. That way, you know, you've already watched the video with me. If you don't want to watch it again, play it in the background so that YouTube knows that this is a video being watched, even though I'm reacting to it. Thanks everyone for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.